There we go. Yes, I stopped recording so that you people watching this back didn't get all the chit chat between Chris and I before the session started. But thank you for the reminder, Michael. Lots more people coming in. Let us know where you are and let us know what your job role is. So far, we've got the UK, we've got Vegas, so two very different ends of the spectrum. And we'll give it one more minute before we start as well. As we go along, make sure that you use the chat to say whether or not you just comment on what we're talking about. And then for the Q&A, that's where you should put your questions, just so then I can keep on top of it whilst Chris is
Israel
going through. Ooh,
Dubai,
lovely.
This is fantastic. I love the multinational air that we get. So these things. Welcome everybody from Switzerland.
Lovely. I just love that some people might be drinking a coffee and some people might be drinking a beer at this time of day. So Wales, lovely. London, Toronto, Madrid. Oh, this is actually, I can't look at this actually because it's just making me very jealous.
We'll forget to do the webinar. We'll just get terribly excited about Pakistan.
Nice. Wales, another Wales. Right, it's 2:02, so I'm gonna kick things off. So if you do just Abingdon, Puneet, lovely to see you. That's just around the corner from us. So let's get going. So obviously today we are going to be talking about how to customize HubSpot to maximize adoption. And if you've not been to one of our hugs before, we've got Chris here with us and myself. So Chris, I won't limit you to one line again because I know that you don't like that, but let us know who you are and what you do for people that might not have met you before.
Okay, if you haven't met me, I'm Chris Grant. I'm a consultant here at PaperQuest. I implement new HubSpot portals, and probably the more entertaining or interesting and fun part of my job is fixing broken ones. So just sort of going in, working out what we could be doing to make the portal better and more powerful, more useful for the people that are actually using it.
Perfect. And I'm Bridget. I'm marketing manager at PaperQuest. So I work with Chris, but I don't work with clients really. I work very in-house and just use Marketing and Content Hub a lot. So if you ever have any questions about those, definitely let me know. But Chris is definitely the CRM expert and just all-round HubSpot expert in the business, to be honest. So today we're going to be going over how to optimize your record view, some table stakes, some underused features, and there's going to be a good, hopefully, chunk of time at the end for some Q&A. But if you do have questions throughout, just pop them in the panel, and I'll either interrupt Chris and we can get them answered straight away, or we'll wait until the end, depending on how big of a question they are. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to Chris.
Okay, and I suppose I'll cue this up. So one of the things that I see a lot is I go into a HubSpot portal where people are talking about adoption. No one's using it. Now, usually the first thing that stands out, the first place I'll go is a record, and we'll have a look and see what the record structure looks like. 8 times out of 10, very little customization, maybe a couple of properties have been added. 5 times out of 10, no customization. And it's basically out of the box HubSpot. And I think that the really important thing to bear in mind is that the product team at HubSpot, they're great, they're developing these fabulous things, but they don't know anything about your business. So table stakes is, just the basics of HubSpot, but customization is really wrapping HubSpot around your business. And I think if you think about it like that, you go into that mindset of, how can I make the HubSpot portal better for my team? How can I make it more useful? How can I make it so that it's something that they don't want to not use? And that's where customization comes in. Now, we'll talk today about customizing records. We'll talk about the table stakes, like Bridget says. But it's always having that mindset of solving for the user rather than whoever's just implemented it. So thinking about users, thinking about different teams, what they might need to see. So I am going to share my screen, and I'm using a different tool than Bevy. Oh, okay, there we go. Let's.
It's always an adjustment when you're using a different technology. We had a Zoom webinar this morning, and now we're on to Bevy, and it's all a...
There we go. So imagine you're a salesperson, marketer, whoever it is. You log into HubSpot the first time, and let's say the first couple of things you're supposed to do are fill in a property, and you look down the list on the sidebar, and that property's not there. Nobody taught you how to find it. You don't know, and you're probably not going to poke around and find the view all properties, or you might go down a rabbit hole of the wrong thing. If that property's not there, or it's not obvious, then you're probably not going to do anything. You're not going to fill it in. We all complain about people not adding data, but quite a lot of the time, the data that people aren't adding, they can't find how to add. And then let's say on the sidebar here, I want to find the associated deals. I mean, there's just, look at it. There's all sorts of stuff.
This is our test portal. I think we need to also establish this is our test portal. So there's lots of unnecessary.
There's lots of additional apps, but this is mostly reset to out of the box. And then we can look down here and we can see again. It's just an overwhelming amount of information. I can't focus on what I need. The data that I need is not, I would say, above the fold. If you think about website design, you want people to see above the fold all the things that are important. You don't want to hide stuff down the bottom. And in this case, a lot of the stuff that we want is hidden down the bottom. So how do we solve for that? We solve for that by customizing and by actually thinking about what people need. The other important thing too. Oh, hi Debbie. I feel like we should add Debbie to the presenters. So it's all about just thinking about what people need. But and this, Debbie, you'll have heard me say this quite a lot on the bootcamp. But it's a case of we'll talk about a lot of stuff today. We'll show you some things, but always have at the back of your mind, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Talk to the users, solve for the users, understand what does a day in the life of your sales team look like? What does a day in the life of your marketers look like? Like, what are they trying to achieve? Customization is how we help them achieve it by signposting, by making things obvious. And ultimately, we want to provide a 360-degree view of the customer that people can find everything they need. So let's talk about the left-hand panel and some of the things we can do. And one of the really nice things we've got in HubSpot here is I've got the ability to customize the record. I can go and have a look at my customization options straight away. So we'll go through the left-hand sidebar, we'll go through the middle, and we'll talk about the right sidebar. And Bridget will probably stop me if I get too deep and go on for too long, because there's a lot we can cover. Now, in the customized record, we've got a few things to point out. And I think the thing that sometimes people don't find is the preview and the index customization. We'll touch on those a bit later. But what we're going to do is just go into a view. Now, I've created out-of-the-box HubSpot. And here we go. So we've got our about this company. Now, the first thing that people typically come up with is that the default one is not always great. So you might want to call it something different. You might want to change it, but it's, there's lots of stuff in here that we might not need. For example, let's say with the sales team and we're not sending things in the post, probably don't need a lot of these properties. Some of these are data points that are refreshed by Breeze Intelligence. You might not have credits. You might have a different way of getting that data in. Time zone could be important. It might not be. LinkedIn company page might need record source. Does anyone need to know the record source on the record, or would we pull that out in reporting? So immediately, we've kind of cut down this record, and I'm going to save and exit. We're going to go back in and we're going to do some more good stuff there. But just to get rid of this weird emoji toolbar, we just go back into our company record. And you see immediately, we've decluttered it. There's less there. But then, for example, there's a few other considerations. Like, for example, we've got company domain name here, but actually we've got company domain name up there. So do we need to have that in two places? Probably not. I can click and open the website directly. And I can also, I can search in Google and find it as well. So we could remove that. So the first thing is to just think about what is it that we actually need to see. And it could be that different teams need to see different things. So in which case we can create different views. We talked about important properties of the fold. But the next thing to think about is, shall we divide them up? I've seen lots of portals where we've got a list of 25 properties in the About This company section. And that's not really that much use to anybody because I can't find them. So let's add some cards. Let's make it a little bit easier. And adding cards is nice and easy. We just click Add Cards. And this is our test portal, so you can see people.
More the naming conventions, which are not best practice at all.
Appalling naming conventions. Don't judge me. But we can see the different kinds of cards in it. We've got all cards, we've got property lists, and we've got our standard, which is the HubSpot built buyer intent. But actually what we're going to end up doing most of the time is create card. And on the left-hand side, we're restricted to property lists, small, show a list of up to 50 editable properties. Now, I don't think there should be more than 5 to 10 in a section. I think we're overwhelming people and it makes it hard to find what they need. So, first thing to point out is when we talked about naming conventions, the card title. Let's think about what these cards should be called. Let's in this case call this sales properties. Other names are available, but that tells us exactly what it does. And you'll also notice below we've got the internal name. So actually we might want to make sure it's easier to find with the internal name. So I'm just going to call this sales properties here as well. Next thing to point out, the other things that we tend to see when we go into a portal is that this is switched on, and this lets users add more properties to the card in their view, which can lead to a bit of chaos as well. So I would typically have that switched off and actually have a mechanism for people to ask for what they need. Make sure you're talking to people, but have a mechanism, have a way that they can ask for a new property to be added. And here's our list, and we can then decide what we want. So maybe we want customer issues. We're in sales, so we could want a price book code. And there's all kinds of things in here. We might want to see the close date of a deal, but current year sales, variance from target. Some of these data points are quite interesting to the sales team. And the other thing that is worth pointing out that you need to think about as well is that we can decide when this particular section is going to be displayed. So, typically we might use lifecycle stage. If you're using lifecycle stages and you've thought about them, we might say, let's only show that if somebody's a sales qualified lead that's been handed over to sales. But it might be the case that these properties are important as part of the handoff, so we extend it a little bit. You've got almost unlimited ways that you can think about this. So consider it very carefully. And I'm going to just reset that. Now you can preview your card. Let's say we're going to preview it based on a particular client. And I like that, so I'm going to add it. And there I've got my sales properties. And we might then create marketing properties. We might create handover properties. whatever it is we want to create, always think about solving for the users. It's that holy grail, the North Star adoption. We want people to be using the system. So let's make our left-hand layout something that's actually useful to the team. The next thing I'm going to go into is check how we're doing for time. We're doing fine.
We are all good.
We're all good. Okay. Something that I often get asked is, how do you stop people from messing around with the sidebar? Here we go. Settings. Decide if and where users can reorder their cards for view. And again, if we have a whole, we might have a workshop together with the sales team, the marketing team, we work out what they need to see. And then a couple of them make changes. Everybody's looking at something different and we're not properly aligned. So, call me strict and disciplinarian, but I would typically turn those off just because it means I know that if somebody says they can't find something, it's probably user error, or we need to rethink. So turn those off. So let's think about the center column. Now this is where the customization options suddenly open up. Remember, if we go back to our view, remember there was not a lot of useful stuff in here. So we'll just go back to our company view again.
And the middle pane is the one that's a bit more visual, isn't it?
So
which I personally I like that a lot more.
This is our middle pane here. So we can see recent activities, we can see contacts. These are all cards that have been added. But in this case, there's an awful lot of stuff, isn't there? It's kind of overwhelming. And if I want to find out any pinned activity, it's way down the bottom. And probably if I'm in a rush, I'm not going to go down there. I'm just going to pick up the phone. Mm-hmm. Probably make it up as I go along. So going back to our page editor, let's remove some of these cards. Let's just sort of say we don't need sales orders or assets, investment, land, price lists, financial data, HubSpot users, agents, project. You get the point. We can start to remove all of these. But the other nice thing is that we can add new cards. And where we only had property lists on the left-hand side, in the middle, we've got, well, look at this. We've got apps, we've got association stage trackers, we've got tables, company summary, we've got data highlights, property history, all of this stuff. And you can see all the possible ones that we could add. I might say I want sales navigator. I want, let's start with a company summary, and we'll put that up at the top. Data highlights, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But if we go into create cards, you start to see what we can do here. Activity totals, association labels. Here's one that a lot of people don't know about, which solves the particular problem we hear a lot, which is my team work out of the X object, so my team work out of the company object. I need them to fill in contact properties, but they never do. So here's an association property list. Let's call it vital marketing data points. For example, I'm going to choose an object type and let's say it's contacts. And look, I can add contact properties. So let's say marketing want to know what somebody's favorite food is because maybe we're inviting them to dinner or something. Say we might want to know their job title. Mm-hmm. I like a drop down for job title. We can make it broad, but it's nice to have a drop down. It's better for reporting. And we've got job function, and we can preview our card. So let's do one that we know we've got. We'll use the one that we're using. So we can see an association, we can see the properties, and we'll save this and add it. We'll go back to the record and we'll show you what we can do with it. So I'm going to save that. Anything you create appears at the bottom. So I'm going to move that back up to the top. So we've got a company summary. we've got our vital marketing data points. If we go back to our create cards, why is it doing that? There we go. There's some other things we can do. So stage tracker, we could track the deal that's associated. Got quick actions that people can take. We can add a large property list. So the use case potentially for this is, again, if you've got lots of things on the left sidebar and you have to have 50 data points on the left-hand sidebar. What we can do with a property list is we can put some of the properties we want people to fill in that center screen. Really nice. Property history, so we can track that. We've got summaries. But the other one that I'm going to highlight here is that we can actually add a report card. Please note, single object reports only at the moment. So we can't create a cross object report. I suppose that's got to do with the complexity of associations. But any single object report that you've built, we can add. I don't know what we're gonna. I guess we need to find one with a deal associated with it. But let's just say team activities by activity date, and you just choose a filter. So in this case, I'm going to say unfiltered. I'm going to save it, and then I can move my report card up. Data highlights will leave, but we can see, for example, we've got a contact association table, and we can also edit this. So we might want to be able to see first name, last name, email, phone number, and let's say time since last contacted, for example. We can save that, and we can add that. And it might be that you want to create a company table of child companies. The possibilities are endless. We talked about just because you can doesn't mean you should. So think about what's really important and what's actually going to create that 360-degree view of the customer for your teams.
A question, Chris, is with your experience with this, what is the recommended number of cards that you should be having, or is it really dependent?
I think it depends on your team. I think it's and probably especially at the start, keep it simple. Let's put what they need to do their jobs, and let's run it like that for a couple of weeks or a month, and then let's get them together and get some feedback. And it's actually asking them that question: when you're on the record, do you have to go somewhere else to find something else? What is it? And that will help us kind of work it out, because there is the danger of creating a huge amount of these cards. And again, it just becomes something that you can scroll down. But if you look here, we've now got something that's a bit more useful. So up at the top, we can use Breeze. And Breeze is our little minion that helps us do things. But look, we've got a company summary. We've generated it. We can see engagements. We can see various topics. We can see problems. We can see the last touch point. So as the salesperson about to pick up the phone, that's useful. I can also open up the sidebar, and I can get more in-depth summary, and I can ask questions. And again, in this case, it's another reason to make sure that your data is really clean, really crisp, because your data is what the AI is using. So if you come to me and say, the AI is rubbish, it's not doing anything, the first thing I'm going to do is look at the gaps in your data. And typically that's going to be half the problem. So, and it's almost on that adoption front. It's if we can show the team this first, and they can see, oh, wow, that's great. And that's typically the reaction to this sort of summary. Oh, wow. And then you say to them, well, if you want it to be good, make sure you're entering your data.
Yeah, in the chat, actually, Debbie said what you need to say, like what's in it for them, the users. So you show them what's possible and then say, well, actually, we still need you to be doing this, this, and this to get there.
And it's almost, show them first. It's like if you've got kids, show them the reward and then tell them what they need to do to get there.
Show them
when they're excited.
Yeah.
And we said the reward is for filling in the data is you get a lovely summary. And then what we've done is we've made it easy for them to fill it in. So, I can be on a call off the company record and I can fill in all of these. Oh, there's another thing that we do that we haven't quite touched on yet, which is we talked about conditional sections, but what about conditional properties? Put it in the chat pane. Actually, is anyone actually using conditional properties?
Just whilst we wait for people to answer that, Michael has a question, which is the use of AI then within HubSpot, is that an additional cost? And it's not. This isn't the Breeze intelligence. This is just normal Copilot. That's I think it's included in all hubs for the record summary. So no, that one's not at an additional cost.
No, it's a really nice piece of kit. This. So and Bridget as a marketer, your salesperson has now just filled that in. And now you can segment your database and we can send relevant marketing emails and information, which make the prospects lean in a bit. They open stuff, we can score them. So
it helps that marketing and sales alignment as well. I'm not going to be knocking down your door.
No, absolutely. You're going to be happy and you're going to be able to come to me and say, because you filled in all that data, we've been able to invite this list of people to that dinner or whatever it happens to be. And you can sit and talk to them and you've got a chance for some FaceTime. And if we didn't have that data, we wouldn't have been able to invite them. So it's that quid pro quo, that, like you say, what's in it for me all the time.
So we've got one person using conditional properties so far. I'm sure lots of other people are using it, but no, not much feedback at the moment.
So just in case we're not familiar with it, we can go to let's show you how to do conditional properties. So settings, and we're going to properties. Whenever you're doing anything in properties, make sure you're working on the right object. It's very easy to just build the new property you wanted against the contact just because it's the first page you get to. But we were looking at company properties in that case. And the conditional logic is actually nice and easy to use now. We're just going to click conditional logic and we're going to create it. And all we're doing is saying if a test field that's no use to anyone is equal to Butterscotch, who built this portal?
This is our test. It just doesn't make sense, our test portal.
25 people causing absolute chaos in here. So if somebody selects Butterscotch in a test field that is no use to anyone, we're going to say fill in their annual revenue, and we're going to make it required. We might add fill in big test 7, and we might make it required. And you can see how it works here. You can test it. Turn off Butterscotch, nothing. Tick Butterscotch, fill in the annual revenue, and a random date property. And these work across HubSpot. So if you create these conditional properties, you'll see them working everywhere. But again, when we talked about the left sidebar before, it's a really good way to declutter, to make it so that people only see what they need. And, it could be that dependent on a life cycle stage or something else. But making it appear when somebody fills in another property just makes it much easier for them to know what they're supposed to be doing. And with all your conditional properties, don't forget to save your logic. And when you want to review it, you can always look at all the controlling properties, all the dependent properties, if, for example, you need to unpick it. So it's looking immediately a lot better. Do we feel like this is suddenly getting to be much more like something that the team might want to use rather than that sort of plain vanilla view that we had before?
Definitely. Yeah, getting good feedback.
Good
I like
feedback.
Said you can see when they need to see a certain property. And do you know what scares me is that you kind of don't want them to look at view all properties.
Oh God.
You want to keep them away. You want to keep people away from that for sure. So having that when is really, really important. So yeah, good point, Kenneth.
Yeah, and I think when you're talking about that, there is that additional consideration of the navigation that actually we can, to a lesser extent or to a greater or lesser extent, we can kind of control what people see on the navigation by permissions. And typically we'll kind of give everyone permissions to do everything. But let's say they don't actually need, and ideally we don't want them, let's say they don't need to go near workflows or journeys or chat flows or surveys, but we want them to have sequences. Let's make sure they don't have the permissions for these things. They won't be able to see them. So
that's a good tip, actually. I think people, the navigation can get quite confusing. That's a good tip.
I mean, yeah, the other, I mean, this is sort of user level customization, but make sure they know how to add a bookmark. You know, if I'm using payments, I'm going to bookmark it so that I've got my own personal menu up at the top.
And that's just on a person by person basis, isn't it? The bookmarks is whatever. Like mine can be different to yours.
Yeah, yours would be whatever you need. I've got whatever I need, but it just means you don't have to go 3 levels deep to find what you need. I'd like this to be improved even more, but I think it's really useful, and it's I bookmark the things that I'm going to use most, which for me is typically dashboards and reports. So every portal I'm in, I've got dashboards and reports bookmarked so that I can just find them nice and easily.
Because even after using HubSpot for 5+ years myself, the navigation, I still go to the wrong bits in the navigation to try and find like automation or whatever. So if you also feel like that, then you're not alone.
Yeah. And sometimes things move, don't they? So again, be aware of that sort of thing. And if you're the admin and you're going in on a daily basis, if you do notice something's changed, make sure you communicate that to the team so that they're not. And I think that's it. That's the other thing. It's that if you're trying to get a team to adopt the system, they can get terribly frustrated if they can't find what they need. And they might have a hissy fit and go off to an Excel spreadsheet because it's there and they know it's there. Make it easy and they're going to do what you want them to do. So homework for all of you. Tell your team about bookmarks and think about what you can add to that central column. Be it reports, whatever it happens to be. That report's actually very long. The other thing that I've been asked about is this data highlights. It says create date, last activity date, and lifecycle stage. You can customize that as well. We can make it, we might not care about create date. We might care. Country and region seems a little bit more useful. Lifetime value, who owns a deal that's associated. So think about all the levels of customization that you can go to. Now, the final updates and changes, Praneet, you see, that's exactly what we're talking about is communication, people knowing that they can ask for something. And as long as they give a decent reason, then we can do it for them. So we've done left, we've done center. Can anyone guess where we're going next? We're going to go right. And this is the one that's always just a complete nightmare because I think it just gets neglected. People add integrations. One of the things Debbie will attest to is when we ask people on the Super Admin Bootcamp, how many integrations do you have? Typically, people will go away, look at their integrations and be very surprised by the amount of integrations they've got. And a lot of these will appear on here. As you can see from ours, we've got all kinds of stuff sitting on here. So think about how we can make that more useful. We might want to track the lead stage. We want to see associated contacts and deals. But let's say we're not using payments. This is a company. We might not want to see associated companies, or we might want to review that in the middle column. And again, there's a consideration there about, do we need to have the data in 2 places, or do we just need to have it in one place that everybody knows where it is? So that sort of double data can be quite harmful. So direct them, show them what they need, and that's much more useful. Again, we've got our card library here. So we've got all cards, so you can see all the cards we've got. We can see the apps that we've got. So you see we've got lots and lots of apps integrated here. We can see association cards, so we can add data about associated objects, and we've got our standard, feedback, lead stage tracker, etc. And we've also got our new cards. So we can create an association card, and we can, if we want, let's say we're a vet, we want our animals card, and we might want to then add our animals property. Now, again, this is our test portal, so there's nothing hugely useful in that. But I think it's just with the right-hand side, it's a case of thinking about what is it people need to see and how can we declutter. So it's almost get rid of everything and then gradually build back up so that we're getting something that's useful. And talk to your teams. It's sometimes quite hard, but I think it's like Puneet's got a channel. I think having a channel, an internal ticket pipeline, like I think Bridget suggested, all of that is it really works. And it's not just the idea of it being there. Somebody's ringing. It's not just the idea it's being there. It's showing that you're open to people's suggestions. I think the only caveat there is you have to be careful to actually address the things that people are bringing up. There's no point having a internal ticket pipeline and then just ignoring it all and not doing anything.
Yeah, accountability to actually listen to your team. And these are the people that are going to be using it day in, day out. So they're going to be the ones that they know what they need to see to a certain extent, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
You said that before. Build for the users, not for the finance director, for example, or
so for the users, the users would use it. The finance director might need a certain data point, so make it a conditional data point that appears at a particular stage of their journey, not all the way through. And because then it's highlighted as important because it appears at that stage of the journey, and people will become used to the fact that they fill in that property at that stage of the journey, rather than they fill in a list of 27 properties and none of them are any good. So I think that's kind of HubSpot customization, record customization in just over 30 minutes. Where are we going to next, Bridget? Or do we have questions to answer?
No other questions at the moment. So then the next thing we were going to talk about was table stakes. So and I know a lot of times, Chris, you mentioned when you start working with a customer or a HubSpot user is that they don't have their table stakes like apps turned on and things. So like the calendars and the email integrations and all of that. So let's run through that for people that don't.
So yeah, absolutely. Table stakes are integrating your email, integrating your calendar, if you can, having the Chrome extension, making sure that you can access everything. And if I was to ask what's the biggest objection we ever get to HubSpot from a new team, and it's always, I don't want to integrate my email. Well, why don't you want to integrate your email? There'll never really be that
red flag, isn't it?
About why. So, it's one of the things that you should do as the person running the portal is make sure that your user table, like we can see on screen, is customized. So here you're actually customizing for yourself, but just in case, I've seen lots of cases where people haven't actually done this, but I like to be able to see name, calendar sync, email status, and last active. First and foremost, they're great. We can add other ones. We might want to see, if we're worried about security, we might add last password change. We can apply that, and here we can immediately see that we've got some good people. We've got Carrie, who's got email enabled and calendar sync on, but then we've got lots of bad people down the bottom, probably me.
I'll be in that list, I'm sure.
But again, this is, as I said, this is the test portal, but we can also see when people last logged in. So table stakes for you is to make sure that you can see. And we also have, And so something we probably don't have time to go too deep into, but we can also build workflows off the user object. So very simple workflow. If email status is disabled, send an email every 3 minutes to the person until they're connected again. I wouldn't advocate every 3 minutes, but we can gently remind people. Now, just going to that objection about I don't want to integrate my email. So let's go into our preferences and the bit. So you can see my personal email is not connected to this portal. But down here is the bit that often makes all the difference, is the never log list. And it's explaining to your sales team or whoever it is that they can build a never log list. All the emails that they might be sending from their work email address. I know that if once we skew older, sort of my age group, you might be more likely to use your work email address to book a trip to the dentist, or it's arrange your affairs or something like that. You see it all, and that's actually deep down what people are typically worried about. Sometimes they're worried about other people seeing the emails that they're sending. Secret Lover is a must. Absolutely block those emails. It's very easy to do, but most people don't tell their team about this. And what I tend to find when we're training is that this is the first thing we talk about. So get them to build their never log list. There is also the email logging settings at portal level, where again, we have a never log list. And I find this one a surprising amount of times that people don't block their internal domain. And then you find HR emails in their portal and salary details and all kinds of stuff. So, block your internal emails. It doesn't stop emails being logged that you send to clients, but it stops, like if Bridget sent me an email, that doesn't get logged in our portal. So we can, it just adds that little layer of security. And the other thing is you should share this with them, the forwarding address. If they want to forward some of their old emails, and maybe we're not importing them for them, we're just going to give them the forwarding address. Again, they can save that. They can add it to an email they forgot to log. And then think about some of these log and track settings. So, allow all users to log email attachments, for example. Apply the default log setting. So log all emails by default, or don't log all emails by default. Have that company level, we as a company log all emails, or we don't, and we choose what emails to log. And often the higher up the food chain people get, the less inclined they are to log all their emails, because quite often they consider that whatever they're sending is very important and nobody needs to see it. So talk about this sort of thing with your teams, and maybe we want to apply it to the sales extension. Think about all of these things, because again, it's just table stakes.
And just whilst we're on that, I just want to point out as well the unsubscribe link option that was on that page as well, and that having an unsubscribe link automatically included in your emails is really helpful for email deliverability and your email sender reputation. So do consider using that as well.
Yeah, I think especially if you're using sequences and templates and all. You
don't want to get blacklisted, and that will help.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so yeah, get people to set up their email never log list. Calendar, again, it's table stakes. We want to have the calendar sync set up because we want people to have meeting scheduling pages. And then we get into that whole debate of, but I don't want to send someone a meeting link because they'll think I'm putting all the onus on them to book the meeting. I would typically use the double hit. I'd send the meeting link, but I'll also use the proposed times function. So I can say, here's 2 times I'm available in a box. They can click on one if they want to. If they don't work, click on my meeting link. So again, education and just making sure that people are aware of all these things, that they can have a meeting link, that they can do all of these things, and that they're useful for them as an individual, and they help. And I think something that wasn't on the list, never long is a takeaway, good stuff. Something that wasn't on the list, but I'm just going to dip into briefly, is notifications. HubSpot notifies you about everything, which is great, except sometimes people will immediately disengage from notifications if they're notified about everything. So it is worth talking to them about that first time, helping them. What do I want to get notified about? That's terrifying.
There's so many options. There are so many options.
But the important one down here that you want to make sure they don't switch off is custom notifications from the workflows tool. And that's usually the absolute killer, that people turn that off because they're getting too many notifications, and then all your beautiful automation that says, you know, something has happened, it all falls by the wayside. And I'm pretty sure last time I looked in here, there was less options. So
well, they have also just brought out that update, haven't they, which is silences your noisy notifications. So if you've not engaged with a notification, I think within a month,
can we set it?
A time frame, then it automatically turns it off, which is a good and a bad thing as well. So if you're getting notifications, if they're getting notifications through that they need to be engaging with them and clicking on them and things.
So I think we've talked about the record customization. We've talked about table stakes. I'm aware I've probably rabbited on too long, but hopefully it's kind of inspired you all to go away and customize, talk to your users, make it a little bit more useful.
We do have a question as well. So Michael's asked, there's an Outlook calendar sync app, which comes at an additional cost. Is that needed for the calendar sync?
An additional cost. It should be just out of the box. You should just be able to go through your calendar sync. I don't use Outlook, but all really they should do is go through this process of connecting their calendar, choosing which one it is.
So there might be additional functionality that app is pushing, but for the out of the box stuff, you don't need that.
Do share the details of the app with me, because I'm happy to have a look at it and see if it's is it just the basic app, and is the cost, especially if you're on the App Store, you go down to the bottom of the details of the app and it shows pricing. That is pricing to have the thing that you're syncing with HubSpot. So it could be that it's talking about Outlook pricing, but without context, it's quite difficult to know that one.
And just on the notification side, Kenneth has pointed out there's the new notification bell update as well, and that's really helped their team. They can just turn it off from there, which is good. And another one is that you can personalize the notification noises that you get through as well, which I feel like it's quite an unnecessary update, but I actually really love because you're going to know if it's because an SQL has come in, is going to sound different to like a ticket coming in, so you can prioritize that as well, which is really, really good. And yeah, we are coming up to time. There was a few more bits that we wanted to go through, especially some underused features like the meeting prep tool and things, but I think we're going to have a whole other session on that and go through that as well.
Sorry, line raw notifications, love that. Yeah, I think especially because there are changes coming to the meeting prep tool, and it might be best once they've migrated their way into this.
Yes, we'll save that one for next time. But if you've got any, I think that kind of covers. Well, it doesn't cover everything because there's so much to talk about when it comes to customizing your portal, but hopefully that covers the records and it covers the table stakes. So hopefully people have gone away with some ideas that they can take to their own business. If you've got any Q&As, drop them in the chat.
And if you do customize, make some changes and have some success, then do share with us. Let us know.
Yes, show and tell, because we do like to hear what everybody is taken away, because every business is so different. It's so difficult to say right, Michael, you need to do this in your middle chat without knowing lots of context. So we try and make it as useful for everyone as we can. But yeah, let us know what you take away from this session. Anything you'd like to see next time as well. That would be really, really helpful to hear.
Oh yes, we love ideas about things we can go into, people we can talk to. But I think the really important thing for today was that we really wanted to almost take it back to basics and not get overexcited about whistles and bells. And I think if you take away one thing and you only do one thing, think about that left sidebar, because if people can't find what they want to find, they're going to go elsewhere. And as soon as they do, then you potentially lost them.
Yes, absolutely. And I like what Debbie said. If you've got no questions, then just please do share any big wins you've had this week with HubSpot, any hidden gems, potholes that you might have come across. Nice to meet you, Kenneth. Oh, a fresh Super Admin Bootcamp grad. Love that.
Oh,
I haven't
yes.
managed to. I can't even get on because it always gets not sold out, but it gets booked up way too quickly. And for ideas for future sessions, Michael, good question. Just either drop them over to us on LinkedIn, or you can put them in the chat now. But yeah, we do love feedback.
Yeah, we do. However harsh it might be.
Yeah, only kind feedback. No,
no, all feedback is good.
All feedback is good feedback.
The
Absolutely.
Breakfast of champions.
I know we also mentioned the user object before at the start of this session, and we did do a session on that. We did do a hug on that, so I can include that in the follow-up email as well for anyone that might want to look back at that as well. But it looks like we've got 8 minutes back of your afternoon. Glad it was all really useful. Thank you for letting us know. And yeah, just drop us all a link, a connection on LinkedIn. We love to chat. So just chat any HubSpot questions our way. Amazing. Right. Well, enjoy
Thank you very much, folks. Thank you, Bridget.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody.